right, welcome to Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 159 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, EJ, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie and Grace.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Today we'll be talking about episodes 4 through 6 of 911 Nashville, which are titled Bad Case of the Blues, Lost Children, and Great Southern Manners. Yeah, we'll just get into it. There's a lot. So 104 starts with two young sisters at a water park. Your typical sibling banter. Oldest sister's and trying to get her sister to go down the slide. She's scared. The older sister finally goes down to kind of prove that it's safe. The lifeguard there, she's like kind of encouraging the younger ones. So the little girl goes down. And like literally as the two little girls go down, this group of boys like totally like push in. And they're like, come on, come on. And they're like, they want to break this record of 20 people down the water slide at the same time. And so they all start jumping in and the lifeguard's yelling at them and nobody's listening and it's senior skip day. So in 911 fashion, you kind of know where this goes. Somebody stops in the middle of the water slide. So they just kind of build up very big blockage, I guess you could say.
Yeah, the way I wanted to pummel these boys, like, yes, they're being typical teenage boys, but I was like, this is so bad on so many levels. Also, this, like, low-key reminded me of, like, the water park I went to, like, growing up, because I have the same fear. Like, I have, like, a slight fear of heights. So there was this one, water, like it was like the slide like right when you walk in the park. It's huge. I don't know how tall. It's really, really tall. And I was always scared because of course it has like the stairs that had like the holes in the middle. So like I'm so scared to walk up. And the lifeguard saying to like the little girl, like, it's safer than going back down the stairs. That's how this slide was because it was so tall. And I was more scared to go down those stairs than to go down the slide. So I was just like forced to go down the slide.
Right.
So I definitely felt like that fear because some of those water slides are scary.
Yeah, see, okay. I have weird fears when it comes to like amusement parks or water parks. It's largely because I didn't grow up going to a lot of them as a kid. So like a lot of it still feels like kind of new. And so I went to Great Wolf Lodge with my friends earlier this year, last year. I don't remember exactly when. Honestly, what is time, as I was saying. I think it was early this year. I think we went for their spring break. And if, for anyone who doesn't know, Great Wolf Lodge is a water park. And I went when I was 9. I really loved it when I was 9. So it was good to go again. But honestly, I had a lot of these, like this, I felt this girl on here because I had a lot of fears because of shit like this. Like, slides breaking, like going down too fast. Just my brain went through all the possible ways this could go wrong. So trying to go past that instinct that was like, here's all the ways you could die.
Yeah.
And go and do it anyway. It was kind of hard. And that's also why I don't. Another reason I don't do like roller coasters and shit.
Oh yeah,
but, like,
same.
Well,
I felt bad for this girl.
Yeah,
partially because I was just like, I've been there.
And she's going down face first too. Like if I would not go down for my first time face first. Like I would have been done. Like that was
on this type of ride. Was it like supposed to be face first?
The way the little floaty that she was on, it seemed like it was made for her to go, like you were just supposed to go down because the way she was holding it.
Like that.
And I'm like, I'm sure you could have figured out a way to like sit on it and go down, but yeah, it was I would have been terrified if that would have been my first time going down face first. I'd have been like,
yeah, I like more of
1000%,
the raft ones better, or like the tube ones.
Yeah.
Better. My cousin and I went down like the one that's like the toilet bowl, and we got stuck multiple times. That ride does have like very like a lot of problems. Like people get stuck all the time. It's not like a huge deal. They just come down and like they're able to push you forward so you can go.
See, like another thing as well, like I kind of felt like on rides like these, for stuff that you need to go head first down, I've had so many head injuries in my time that it goes against all of my natural instincts to go put my head in any place where it could be in the line of fire. Now, I say all that, and I'm going into a dangerous career, But that's beside the point. That's different. As far as a ride like this, where I'm going face first, but like generally, it's a lot safer when dumbass kids like this aren't doing shit, and it's just
Right.
Right.
I know they're just teens, but geez, like it's senior week. You all probably are like also almost adults.
Yeah.
If you're not already.
Right. And so naturally, the ride breaks apart. The tunnel kind of pops open. Some of the kids fall. Unfortunately, a couple pass away. I think it was 3 of them. And then, the 113 arrives at the scene. Obviously they go up with the ladder, and Ryan and Dawn go up, and they're kind of able to get most of them out. And there's one of the kids is really injured. Lifeguard is actually in this. She ended up getting knocked into the tunnel. I can't remember if she was pushed or pulled in.
She was pushed. Like, they pushed her in, and a couple of women went in after her.
Yeah. So one of the
he kind of just threw her into it too.
Yeah, was injured. So some people were up at the top, and they were able to feed a backboard down, and she was able, with Dawn's kind of guidance, to help get this kid on a backboard. And they pulled the kid back up, and then she unfortunately slipped and ended up falling, and ended up in a spot where the ladder wouldn't reach, and there were already like 6 or 8 people climbing down, so they couldn't move the ladder. So Ryan, being
blue,
it was blue, but no, I was gonna say, because like Ryan is like helping these people, and then like of course we've got this like little brother, typical little brother stuff. He's like, I'm gonna do this, and so he just starts jumping up and turns, ends up rescuing the lifeguard, thankfully. But he ends up
what's also interesting. Oh, actually, no, you continue what you say.
Well, it's just funny that, of course, everybody's filming with their phone. And so the next scene we get is Ryan coming and telling his dad that he's went viral, and he's been given the nickname Hot Tarzan. And Firefox has reposted it, and it's got like 5 million views or something.
Yep, Marjan reposted it, and I'm just like, of course she did.
Of course she did.
I love that. I actually did hear about that. I want to say, like, probably around this time that this actually aired, because I saw the clip like online or something. And I think I also saw like one of the 911 like fan pages post about it, be like, Firefox mentioned in Nashville, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Don't know the context, but still cool.
Yeah. And so Dawn is saying, because he's not on social media to like keep an eye on things, and Ryan is kind of warning him that this viral video could cause problems. And as if on cue, the fire chief calls Dawn and wants to talk. Yeah, that was interesting.
I had so many things flash in my brain, because I'm just like, the way he just parkoured that shit, I'm just like, yep, that's just very Buck for you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was so Buck. There's a lot of similarities.
Blue,
but
Buck,
I find
4-letter word. Not usually a name.
Hothead kid kind of thing. But I do find that I have less trouble with this, let's say early version of Blue. I have less trouble with this early version of Blue than I did the early version of Buck. For sure.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah, they're of course we're always gonna make comparisons to the other shows, because it's honestly just like I said last week, it's like Easter eggs. It's like a fun game. I think it's fun comparing. I will compare it, not even just in this universe. I will compare so many shows to other shows I've watched in the past, because it's just fun. It's like, oh my god, well, this show did something similar, and it's just fun. And I think it makes watching these, like, I guess, more amusing for me. Makes them more fun, especially when we're handling some interesting scenes.
Yeah. So moving on, we see Blythe meeting with the family's PI. She's sitting there, and she's hired this PI privately to look into Dixie.
Well, it's like her family, like the Raleigh family's PI.
Which we through this, we learn that Dixie is bankrupt, or has filed bankruptcy a few times. She's definitely been on the wrong side of the law a few times. And even though like Blythe wasn't surprised, she was about to walk away when the PI was like, so I also looked into Blue, which she hadn't asked him to do, but
she was actually kind of upset originally. She was like, I didn't want that.
Yeah.
Which I do like that Blythe is largely like, she's trying to leave Blue out of this whole mess between her and Dixie and Dawn. Like, I like that she recognizes that, like, he was a kid pretty much for all of this. Like, he has absolutely no, like, he has no, like, stake in it. Like, he is not
yeah,
paying
and
for anything.
he can't choose who his parents are, and it's not his fault that Dixie's the way she is. And so, yeah, I'm glad that Blythe is acknowledging that. But the PI kind of pushes Blythe to look, and so she kind of sees that, you know, he's broken a few laws. She's like, kids stealing stuff, car racing. But then there's a final charge of grand larceny by extortion. And unfortunately, the file is all redacted. So she has no idea really what happened.
And in this moment, like, I didn't want to be thinking like this, but they're making it obviously look a certain way. I'm like, uh-oh, is this because of his mama?
I know, I kind of thought the same thing too. Yeah.
It did sort of look like that. And I was like, well, they started early.
Right.
Like, we still don't know how old Blue is, and we don't know how old he was when this happened, even though I think we get the general impression he was like late teens, early adult.
Yeah.
When I think that's generally when we get the impression, but we don't have answers.
Right. So we head to the chief's office, and Dawn shows up, and the chief is talking about, we kind of through the conversation, we find out that, you know, the chief knows all of his firefighters, and this viral video has been brought to his attention, and he doesn't know who Blue is. And
they addressed this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna go crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like kind of one of those things where I'm like, glad they address this, but I'm also like, okay, you know, all your firefighters. Okay, I understand that. Like, I understand what they're saying. But it's like, also, I'm sure, like, Nashville being, like, a big city, I'm sure they have, like, a lot of them. So I'm just like, you know, every single one.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I think it was more of like, because usually the chief is the person who oversees the ceremonies that present them with their badges. So I imagine that's like he's probably shaken the hands at least once with every firefighter or at least somebody in the department has.
Also, it also sounds like Dawn worked under the chief at one point, as we find out later. So I won't be surprised if it's more of he also knows Dawn's firefighters, because
that's true.
Grand fire babies in a way, like
the vibe I got was that at one point he was the captain of the 113 is the vibe I got later in the episode. So we'll see.
That would make sense.
Yeah, and so Dawn, you know, explains that, well, Blue is a field cadet in training, and the chief's like, yeah, but that's only allowed in certain circumstances. And Dawn's like, well,
thank you.
The tornado, he was you know, why he made the call, totally covering it up.
He was making a cover up,
Yeah. And he explains that he believes Blue has a lot of talent and, you know, will study well on the job. And, you know, he's really hesitant. And then Dawn, you know, just like, well, she tries to charm him a little bit. So he explains that Blue is his son, kind of asks the judge or the chief to be like more trustworthy of his judgment and to why he did this. And he kind of is like, okay, but here's my caveat to that. And he has to do the firefighter test in a week and a half or like a week. That's to stay on and I get it. Like, he's like, I don't want somebody in my house that, you know, in one of the firehouses that doesn't know what the hell they're doing. And yes, some places can bring in cadets and like train them on the job, but it doesn't seem like Nashville. It's not a normal thing. Let's put it that way.
That's not really how it works. And like the whole thing is that I don't know if we're supposed to, but I'm entirely on the chief's side in this. Because it is so ridiculous that this is how everything's happening. Don didn't get approval for this. Like, he didn't get anybody's okay. He was just coasting on by with he's sure he could talk his way out of it because he's got that buddy privilege with the chief. Like, never beating the privilege allegations. Just saying this.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's what I've been saying the entire time, is that we cannot have Blue out here untrained. Right. Like, it's not his fault, but altogether, like, I'm on the chief's side in this, but it's also, I'm mad because that is so unfair to Blue. Yeah. Like, that amount, the fire academy is rigorous. It is intense. It is stress. People fail out on the regular course. And then they want to have, what did they say, 26 weeks of training all rolled into a week and a half? Yeah. First of all, can you even guarantee that person's actually going to be trained, or are they going in one ear and out the other? At that point, how much information can you truly absorb?
Yeah.
And it's just so, those kind of stress levels are just so unfair to Blue.
Mhm.
Okay, a little heated. I just got really upset about that because that is like, I know it's a fucking TV show and they're just trying to make things dramatic and also convenient at the same time because they can't disappear someone for
Yeah.
months to go to the fire academy. I
Right.
know that. It's still
Right.
ridiculous. I'm still not happy.
Yeah. Which kind of leads into the next scene, which is when Dawn is telling Ryan and Blue, which I'm surprised he actually did. I figured he would hide this for a while or try to like teach, but not like bring up why he's being more forceful about the teaching or whatever. But he does tell Blue and Ryan, which of course they're like, this is like an impossible task. And Blue ends up agreeing to it, but he's like, I'm not good at taking tests, which relatable to all of us.
I would study for literally days, hours, whatever, when I was in school. And I was just the worst test taker, like I had the worst test anxiety. I could know like everything and I could tell you everything that you need to know on certain subjects. But when it came to like tests, I would always just test really bad. Which is why I always liked like having like tests that or classes that didn't require testing because I could write whatever you wanted to say about whatever topic I was learning about, but when it came to taking tests, I was always just so bad.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, there's just a certain anxiety around tests
Mhm.
that is just really hard to deal with. So
Yeah.
felt Blue for sure
sure.
on this one.
So we see Blythe visiting Cammy at the call center, and she kind of is buttering her up, literally, and trying to get her to look into Blue's sealed case files. Not really those specifically, but like the date in question, like maybe what happened or what was related to. And we also learn that she's the sister-in-law of Blythe, if you didn't already know that.
Right, yeah, we did know that, but I can understand why if people missed that, but like I think it was
Yeah.
pretty apparent.
I think like if you were like me who kind of missed the whole message that her husband was dead the first time it was apparently mentioned, like I did not realize before that voicemail
Yeah.
scene in earlier episodes. If you're like me and missed that memo, I don't know if it was wholly apparent that like exactly how she was connecting because she's kind of referred to as a sister. And it's like, okay, is it because I wasn't sure, was she Blythe's sister and then the two brothers married the two sisters? Like what kind of scenario was this? Like what, so I wasn't sure about that, but clearly we did get an answer that it's they're married into the family.
Yeah. So Cammy is hesitant because she's worried she'll lose her job if she looks into it, but agrees, but carefully. And then later that night, Dawn tells Blythe about the chief's request. I kind of like how she kind of cautions him, but didn't exactly, tell him why. And I'm glad things changed later in the episode. But
I liked that she waited till she knew more a
yeah.
bit. But there was
Yeah.
also, here's the thing, is that they also, that's another thing with
Mhm.
the whole logic behind what Dawn was doing. There wasn't a background check that would have flagged all of
Right.
these.
Yeah.
Because Don would have known about them if he'd run a background check, which is mandatory for every single person who enters this kind of service.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, which kind of, it's convenient. It all lines up together. It just
Right.
annoys me. But like, Daddy Pooh, stop making your children into Nepo babies.
Yeah. Which, yeah, and he even says, he's tired of he's done with not being in Blue's life. He feels like it's his fault that Blue grew up without a dad, which we've kind of already learned that that's not the case. But moving on, we do end up seeing him working on it, and even the whole fire crew starts to get involved with, and he makes mistakes. Everyone is going to, and he is starting to doubt himself because he's in crunch time. Like you've got like a week to come up with, 26 weeks of worse stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
It was like when they were helping Mateo study for his test because obviously he had taken it so many times and he was about to crash out. It was like a similar vibe to that, but I love what they did with it to make it different. Where
Yeah, me
his
too.
is like more so of the physical stuff and stuff, like because for him like going through the test questions and like listening to things probably wouldn't have been as helpful, where for him doing is more helpful.
I liked how they did this whole training thing. Like I liked how everyone kind of band together. It felt like they were really starting to become part of the overall family.
Yeah.
Not just part of Dawn and Ryan's family. Because I feel like this is definitely a difference between, here I am, I'm gonna have to bring in a comparison, guys. I feel like there is definitely a difference in the feel of the 118, the 126 versus the 113. And it's that, like, the 118, and granted, it's a developed dynamic that's been over years, but they all felt like a family in and of themselves. Now, granted, no one was really related in there, except for, well, no, Albert wasn't even in that station. There was no one actually related in there, but they were all a whole family. And the 126, also family feeling, even though there were people related in there. Here, it definitely feels like there's the Hearts plus Blue, and then everybody else. And Taylor and Roxy fall into that. And I don't know, I don't know if that's something that would change as the show goes on, but it's a little odd after coming from the dynamics of the others. Not necessarily bad, just odd. It was nice to kind of see them all banding together like this to help Blue.
Yeah, and I'm glad they didn't choose to go the same route they did with Mateo, just because I'm glad they found another original way to do it.
Yeah, that I did love that.
So then we see Blue going home. We learn a few things. I'm definitely curious about some stuff. So Dixie is trying to jump in and help because she wants Blue to stay close to Dawn and the Hart family. Because she feels like once he's like in the family that he's going to be set for life, which is, a thing. And, we hear this beeping and like Dixie freaks out. She's like, oh my God, that's your CGM, which is continuous glucose monitor. So he's wearing a glucose monitor. And his blood sugars are like all out of whack, which makes sense because activity can lower your blood sugar. And then if he's eating crazy amounts of food or to keep up his energy, then it can be very messy very quickly. And so he has to take some insulin to bring his blood sugar down. And I've used a
lot of glucometers over the past couple of weeks writing. I've been doing ride-alongs on ambulances, and I've learned a few glucometers, been tackling chapters on diabetes, stuff like that. So it was I knew that Blue is diabetic because I'd heard, like, that was probably one of the other spoilers I'd heard about the show. I did hear
that one as well.
Which I was like, I don't know the rules as far as like how that's like, there are things that the fire department will work with you with, medically speaking, and there are things that are not. There is a person in my volunteer station who is hearing impaired. He wears hearing aids. Before this, I did not know someone could volunteer with a hearing impairment. So, why not? If you've got your diabetes under control. But I also did. I was like, I did not know that you could be diabetic and be in the fire department.
I feel like it makes sense because if we remember from Lone Star, Paul had to get the...
And I am looking... I just looked it up because I was like, wait,
pacemaker.
You know what?
Wait, is that what it's called? Yeah, so Paul had to get the pacemaker.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like it's a similar thing as long as you're taking care of your health and, like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. And I do have a thought based on this, and I can't really take credit fully for it. I did see somebody talk about this with the scene, and I definitely agree. So, like, I feel like they're gonna, maybe they won't do this, but I also feel like it's very plausible that they'll do this. So I feel like them mentioning that Blue is a diabetic is going to lead to somehow Don finding out that he's a diabetic, and that's how they're gonna connect to them. Because I can totally see them in 911 fashion doing that.
Yeah. So we get this next call where this influencer is eating some hot chicken and she's bouncing around and she has a Murphy bed. And
I already knew where this is gonna go. I'm sure we all did.
And she like starts bouncing around on this and like ends up tripping and like ends up the bed closing on her with like her legs sticking out of the bed, and she's like screaming and she's on like a live video. So these viewers from England call 911. And they had called 999, which is what it is in the UK. But they transferred them to her, over to Cammie, and she's like, I don't get it. She was so confused at first.
Because they're like saying like my address is blah 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 flat,
like,
whatever.
Where are you?
And she's like, excuse me?
Where's that?
Yeah. And then so they're like, okay, so then Cammie has to talk to her supervisor who has to like give her permissions to set up this account, because it's like, I honestly feel like the way they were vibing it as like an OnlyFans, but it was a different name.
They were.
So they had to give it
She was a
permission to
cam
like get
girl,
onto that
essentially.
site. Yeah, and
She was a cam girl. Yeah. It was a lot.
Yeah.
I was worried they were going to get into feederism shit, which is a whole other beast.
I unfortunately do know about some of these things and stuff because I just know about them because it's hard not to because of the way people talk.
Oh, yeah.
And people have some weird fetishes, and apparently a fetish is people eating.
Yep. Which leads to feederism, which has led to the death of several people who did that for payment. Recent things. It is really it's a lot to get into, but yeah, I
definitely not a topic I ever talk about or want.
But I will say, for a lighter purpose, when I was watching the scene, all I could think of was that one of the ways you can die in The Sims is by the Murphy bed closing on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about this before too. We've talked about this before because there was a call in 911, I believe it was. I think it was literally last season where we definitely mentioned that. Yeah, I think about that all the freaking time.
Yep.
I will never be near a Murphy bed. Thank you very much. After
watching
both this and The Sims. Sorry.
No, there's Murphy beds, and I don't like couches that turn into beds. Futons are different. But like when there's a couch that you have to fold this thing out, we had one when I was a kid. Like if you sat on it the wrong way, it would tip backwards and try to go back into the couch, like the base. No, yeah, nope.
Yeah, like in my old house, we had I don't know if it was like the same thing, but we had one that was essentially that where it folded into a bed, and there's something about that.
Right.
I've slept on those before, and honestly, they worked for what they were, but they were very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
There was also a time I full on slept on the couch before for a while. Right. It was not great.
Yeah, my grandma would end up sleeping on that specific because it was like she slept on it every time she stayed when we lived at my old house. Yeah. And then my parents slept on it for whatever reason one time, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is comfortable. Why does she ever like sleep on it?" And she didn't complain about it.
Yeah. So the 113 did end up responding, and they're live feeding the whole thing. Like it's all on her computer, like being live fed. And we have a moment which I was going to bring up earlier, but like, no, I'll wait till this. But so we have this moment where they do finally get her out of the bed, and they're trying to treat her, which she's got this. Her femur has been broken, and she's sticking out of her body, and they ask Blue to check her ankle for a pulse, and he can't find it. He doesn't know. Like he's like. And it's
which I'm just gonna say it is really hard to find that pulse.
It is an ankle pulse.
Finding the pedal pulse.
Yeah. And so he's like nervous. And so like Dawn sends him out and has Ryan do it. And then Ryan's like, yeah, there is no pulse. So he actually was accurate because there was none. It was just and then of course we have the doc who has to reset her bone. Ugh.
I was cringing this whole scene. Like, just
I didn't like anything about this.
I was like,
also turn off the damn camera. There are people that would get off to shit like this.
Yeah. Well, and I was worried.
I don't think they realized what this exactly was. And that whole thing. And I totally got the vibe of when that girl was like on that live on 911. I was low-key hoping.
Oh my God, with the maggots?
Yeah. I was low-key hoping there were going to be like comments on the screen and it like being something about like the pretty boys.
Because they were showing comments before, but I kind of wish they'd like show
it. Would have been funny. I think even Lone Star did something similar. I just can't remember. Like,
yeah,
I don't remember, but yeah.
It was on a Zoom call. I think this guy started choking on a Zoom call, and his coworkers called and they responded, and they came and rescued him.
This also reminded me of the call in Lone Star with the girl that was doing like the yoga thing or whatever in like season 1, and like Carlos Stack. It kind of gave me like a similar feel to that, even though it wasn't like completely that.
Yeah. And during the whole thing, like even Cammy's watching it, so then she's seeing Blue like kind of like freak out and like him have to walk away, and Blue's feeling bad, but then we see Cammy unsealing Blue's records and giving them to Blythe, and then explains kind of what had happened. So apparently the whole extortion thing was because Blue and his friend had gotten into a car accident, and it was a hit and run case. And Blue had tracked down the person who actually hit them and ran off and was trying to extort money out of them to help protect and care for his friend who got hurt. And so he's not really a bad kid, but he just did it in a bad way. And then Blythe ends up sharing that information with Dawn. I'm glad, like you said earlier, I'm glad she waited until she knew more before putting this very weird and could be damning thing in front of her husband. Here's what your son's like,
Yeah.
Right. Giving him the benefit of the doubt, not being oh, he's such a bad kid, when literally, honestly, everything was warranted and stuff.
Yeah. Was it wise? No. Do I blame him? No. And also even the reason why it's not time on his record necessarily is because the dad of the kid who hit them and ran, when he learned about what actually happened, dropped the case.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was all around just a shitty situation, but Blue was trying to be so
yeah.
Yeah.
So when Dawn sees him the next day, Blue's upset, and Dawn encourages him that he's always going to be family even if he fails the test, because Blue is nervous about that. And then later that shift, he actually kind of saves the day. They come up to this sorority house, and there's this fire, and some of the areas of the fire the flames are green, and so nobody's really sure what the green fire is from, but then Blue figures it out, having just read through some of that in the manual. So they're able to get the proper chemical to put out the fire. So I was good on Blue.
The nuclear plant that was on the campus.
On the campus.
Yay! We love whenever the word nuclear enters the conversation.
Yeah.
Not, in case that wasn't very clear, that was very sarcastic. But yes, yay on Blue.
Yeah, that was good. Good for him.
I also loved how they all thought that good call Dawn, and Dawn was actually this was Blue, and they're oh yay.
Right. That kind of is my I kind of think about that when we had times when Mateo would come up with the answer, or be able to do something in his head, something he knows from Lone Star.
Everyone's got their own strengths.
Yeah.
It's just about learning how to work with them.
Yep. And so Blythe had told Dawn to encourage him, Blue, to come over for dinner. Is well timed to have family dinner. So Blue shows up at the family manor. It's a big ass place. And Blythe welcomes him. They have 3 golden retrievers.
I love that.
Once they get inside, they introduce Blue to Cammy, who'd been excited to meet him. And while lunch, dinner, whatever we're calling this for a meal, is being finished, Ryan and Dawn set a test in front of Blue and have him sit down and take an old test to see how he can do. And while he takes it, and while Ryan's scoring it, Blue goes to the bathroom, and we learn that Blue's searching around the house a little more than he should be, and ends up finding a Blue book. They'd referenced it earlier in the episode. Dawn had been looking through a picture book that was all photos of Blue when he was a kid, and Blue quickly realizes that not only did Dawn know about him his entire life, but that the only way that Dawn could have gotten those photos is if Dixie had been sending them to him. But after we find out that Ryan, after scoring, Blue did it better than Ryan did on the test. They all go sit down, and even Blue comes and sits down instead of leaving. I actually thought he was going to leave, but he ended up sitting down and just pretending like everything was fine.
Yeah, there were a few ways I thought this go. He was either going to storm out, or he was going to completely lose it on Don. But I was actually glad that he just sat down and acted like everything was normal.
Right.
Even though, because yes, it's not really Don's fault. We all know it was Dixie. That was her doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also I felt so bad for him, because he's under the impression oh, he knew about me, but he never like reached out because like I don't know, it was just like so many things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like it's rough and kind of obvious that Lou has felt lost for so long and he's been missing something, but not even just in the general like, oh, he's missed one parent. It's like he's also missed all the stuff that Dixie is also listen, I am still very much very solidly on the hate Dixie with a passion train, keeping this
Amen.
in mind. And I don't think there's coming back from this now. Obviously it's still early, but I don't think so. So the like there's a lot, and I still feel like we'll get into it later, but I still feel like it wasn't very clearly explained exactly what happened. But I don't know, it's just like she wasn't a good mom. You can tell that. You can tell Blue suffered in a lot of different ways as a kid, and I just feel like I don't know. I feel like he's allowed to be brooding and upset, and honestly,
Mhm.
I don't blame him for a single thing that happens.
No. Yeah, no, and I think I'm sure he's got a lot on his mind now because up until now he's thinking that his dad didn't know anything about him, and so all surprised he's there. But I'm glad that he acknowledged that it's his mom's fault too. Like he's not just laying all the blame at his dad's feet too when this does come up.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah. I liked that because I was a little worried that he'd kind of been like, I kind of been worried that he'd been conditioned into that whole mother does no wrong kind of shit. And it does feel like he tries to play that card sometimes,
Yeah.
but I was glad to see that like equal amount of the going
Right.
on here.
Right.
Because
Like
also, I don't know, why can't they ever just be honest with him?
yeah, I think like he is like his heart, he is like a mama's boy,
Mm-hmm.
like wholeheartedly. But I also, as we see, he will also call out his mama ship.
Yeah.
He's just a solid kid.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that was actually the end of episode 4. So starting with episode 5 is gonna start coming up with some more blue stuff. Did you have something else to say, Grace?
I just want to say because I want to actually get y'all's feel on this. How do you all feel about this whole wealth perspective added into this whole show?
It's something they haven't done yet on any of the 911 franchises as much yet. So I'm leaving it to see where they go with it. I'm trying to just put it out of my mind. But I also know that down in the South, cost of living is a lot lower. So larger homes can be less money than a new home. So I also know that like what you can get like here for $1 million could be down there for like 500,000. So I don't know if Nashville's the same, but so I'm kind of just holding off on judgment on that for a while.
Yeah,
Fair.
I don't know. It is interesting because we really haven't dealt with something like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting seeing like
Yeah.
that side of it, I guess.
Well, like, and Owen had been given a golden ticket when he moved to Austin to redo the firehouse any way he wanted it. So there was money there in that case, but it wasn't like family
It
money.
wasn't a lot
Yeah, it was
if
just
I
enough
look
to
at
like
it because
redo
they
the
did all the
firehouse.
renovations themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
And
they didn't
honestly,
bring in anybody.
if we're being real, finances are kind of not talked about for most of the show in most
Yeah.
cases. Like I
Yeah,
feel like
like-
it's brought up for like the let's say I don't know like Marjan and Paul more or like Han and Chim.
Yeah.
Like their finances are occasionally brought in things like oh I need the overtime or oh I like and
Mhm.
Zane I'm in med school and I've got 2 kids to support for the wildfire like I could use the
Right.
emergency overtime. But like I feel like for like the captains and like
Yeah.
whatever the like more prominent characters sometimes are, they're not really brought up. So I
Yeah.
like a lot of the times it's like, oh, you got money somewhere in there because you're like
Yeah.
you got a nice place, like you're doing all these things, but
Mhm.
it's not really. I asked that because I'm not the greatest fan of it so far. And I think that's just simply because I don't like a lot of rich people. Just in general.
Yeah,
Right.
that's fair.
don't.
Well, and I think the fictional world portraying people who are rich are usually snooty and all those other adjectives we can describe them as. So I think that's why I'm reserving judgment because I'm starting to see that Blythe, even though it sounds like she's come from money, she's also has a little more of a softer heart than some may.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love Blythe.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I have very few issues with her so
Mhm.
far. Like, but just like generally, it's like I don't know. There's just something I can't lay my finger on that really bothers me about the whole wealthy. And I don't know, like, again, I can't lay my finger on it. I don't know what it is, but there's also a little bit of the just generally, I don't know, old money wealth kind of thing. And it is also, I'll talk about it in some other points later because it does actually come up. But
it comes up more in the next episode.
Yeah, which is why I also wanted, before we started talking about this episode, I kind of wanted to see where you guys were at on it, because I was like, am I going crazy? Like, how do you guys feel? So that's why I wanted to ask before I went into
part of what I'm going to say is I will hold off until later. But also, I think right now they're definitely trying to do a compare and contrast between Blue's life of upbringing and Ryan.
Yeah, I would
using that as a very, very obvious way of saying Dixie was not.
I'm going to have stuff to say on that too, but I will reserve until that comes up.
Right.
It is interesting how they're playing it, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
And I feel like this is just how I feel it. I feel like there could have been a time where Dixie was doing really well. And then, of course, she became a mother. And maybe, like, obviously, like, she wasn't as where she was. And then it went downhill, which is kind of what I feel like they're portraying, which is interesting. But yeah, they definitely are trying to, like, do, like, some sort of, like, comparison.
That's all I have to say, I guess. I just wanted to see where y'all were at.
All right.
Okay, sounds good.
So at the beginning of episode 5, we have Blue. He's getting ready to take the firefighter physical exam. We've got the chief is there, a whole bunch of people from the firehouse. Even Blythe is there. Dixie shows up, and but Dawn is noticing something's off with Blue. He's not really acting himself, but he can't figure out what's going on. And just as he starts running the physical test, he's doing really well, and then he just gets down to like the last 5 steps, and he just drops the dummy that he's dragging across the floor and walks out.
Yeah, like he is pissed.
He's
and you
so
can tell
mad.
You can tell how mad he is the whole time because he is raging through it.
Yeah.
And like,
that's how he's doing so well, is he is like not saying anything about his actual skills, but like his drive, he's doing everything just that bit harder because he is. And you see like all these flashes going through his mind. Like we're getting throwbacks to like him meeting his dad for the first time and him finding the photo book. Like, yeah, there's shit going on.
So then Dawn and Dixie chase after him and catch him outside. And then he actually confronts them about lying to him about his whole life, about not, lies. But unfortunately the damage is already done. And even though like Dawn kind of offers like, well, we can just say you had a, off moment, and then he'll see if can retake the test or something, and Blue refuses, and he like totally just like gets in his car and drives off. And both of them try to contact him multiple times, but it just goes to his voicemail. Like they can't get a hold of him, which unfortunately then causes a lot of drama, because then the chief is at the fire station yelling at Dawn in his office.
Oh my god, you guys, you know what this reminded me of? This reminded me totally of them watching like Dawn get yelled at in his office every time something happened in the 126 firehouse.
Yes.
And
oh my gosh,
watching especially when they're like, oh my god, he's doing this, he's doing that. That was literally what they did at the 126.
Right. Yeah. And like she's cutting carrots, and like he even calls her out like when they come out, and he's like, yeah, like the carrots you've been cutting for the last 10 minutes.
And she's like, oh, you noticed that. I love Taylor.
Oh yeah. We're here for it. Yeah, this was honestly, Blue, go the fuck off. I fully support your right to rage.
Right. And so because of that, obviously when the fire chief does storm out, he's even hot. Don't get me wrong, I love Gregory Allen Williams. When I saw that he was going to be the chief, I was like, oh, I love him. I've like been a fan of like just as his acting. He's done really well. Like he was in Baywatch as the cop, so he's always played like a first responder in a lot of the shows that I've been in, like interested in. So it's just really cool to see him playing a fire chief. But we learned that like there's going to be some consequences, and I can't remember the specific name of like the type of inquiry he's getting called into, but most of the time they don't do that unless they're considering like suspension or more with like to a captain. So Dawn's in some trouble.
Yeah. I don't remember what it's called either. It was in my brain until you said you didn't remember, and now I don't. But yeah, it's important. and
It's a
not great.
disciplinary hearing. Blythe had been on the phone and she's like, well, and like Blythe's even offering to like ask the mayor for help. I was like, oh, you're that close to the mayor? Okay.
Well,
Rich people.
I guess that's the part of being rich is like,
yeah.
and also like you can tell there's like ties as like the chief is talking about Blythe, which I know we talked about like what that connection seemed like and stuff, but it is very interesting. It's just like,
So the next day at the station, we have Don is telling Blythe about this stuff on the phone, or he's talking to her, and Dixie storms into his office, and they're trying to like stop her from just storming in, but she does not want to hear it. And then Dawn wants to hang up with Blythe, but she's like, "Oh no, you leave it on." It's
which
like,
smart on her.
smart
'Cause it's like,
yeah,
I don't know what's gonna happen.
Oh yeah. And Dixie is upset. She's worried about Blue because Blue didn't come home that night. And she's worried he's like jumped off the deep end or something. And she's like, the last time he pulled a stunt like this, he drank himself into a diabetic shock. And it kind of goes back and forth for a few minutes. But then Ryan was like, he reached out to Blue and he's just surprised, like he just said, your mom's here. She's pissed, worried about you. And the response was, tell her I'm fine. And Ryan's like, he's like, well, he just responded to me. So.
Well, because he had like left them all on red for like days or whatever, or however long it was. I just love that she mentioned like so casually like drinking himself into a diabetic shock, but like nobody really questioned it. They really didn't go into any more details.
Yeah.
I am wondering like if this is, I am hoping that this is because Don actually knew, like they knew, because not running a background check on your newest firefighter is bad enough. Not running a medical history check is worse. So I'm hoping it just is that they knew.
I'm not buying that. That's just me personally, though. I just
I
feel
would be
like
surprised if
they're
it turns into
going to use that, and I also feel like they didn't question it because, like, she just mentioned it so casually, and it's like her knowing her as a person, is she just being dramatic? Like, if I was maybe in that scenario, I'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
Well, it was also when she says that he drank himself into a diabetic shock, she also includes the fact that like when it wasn't the car accident happened, which is when the whole extortion thing happened. But we do also get some background on that is also what happened around that incident that was brought up earlier. So yeah, I mean it is nice to see it brought up casually, but it's also interesting to see it brought up casually. Like I don't want it to be a big thing, but at the same time, I don't not want it to be like it feels like it should be a big thing.
I don't need them to bring like the family into it. Like I don't need things to mirror, but I also would like them to kind of dive into this more for Blue's sake. I would like it to be explored. I don't want it to be like that one thing they mention and then they never revisit it, or they don't revisit it for a long time. I would like to have more information or just have them talk about it, especially for like just awareness. I feel like these are things that aren't really explored a lot on TV shows that aren't specifically heavily medical, that deal with medical cases, if that makes sense.
And also like I feel like, and I don't know, because I don't watch tons of like current shows. I don't even watch tons of old shows. Like I don't watch tons of stuff, but I feel like I don't see that all that much about like all that much like content about characters with diabetes. And also I feel like there are so many stereotypes that come out when there's a character with diabetes, like if you're talking about like weight or age or something along those lines. I feel like when there are characters that are diabetic, they play into those stereotypes sometimes. So I really want to see some portrayal of like some generally positive and healthy discussions about diabetes and positive and healthy portrayals of a person with diabetes. And I really feel like they could do that. Do I trust them to? I don't necessarily. But I would love it if they actually could.
Yeah. My mom was diabetic my entire life. So I grew up with a diabetic. So I would have loved for her to have a continuous glucose monitor. So I'm glad that he has one. And I have a friend that's like trying to get one. And it's like really challenging because a lot of medical companies won't cover it. But but things have come a long way in the last,
they
20
have.
years
I feel like
even.
a lot of the conversation around diabetes has finally changed for the better.
Yeah, and
Right,
you're right.
yeah.
And I really hope they do address this in a way, like have it come up, because I think it's important for people to see that like firefighters are not all 100% like perfect. Like they don't, like, some of
100%.
them may have issues and they may have health stuff, and it's how they manage their life. And if they can manage it, and like with the continuous glucose monitor, he can keep an eye on it and know like, oh, my blood sugar's going down, I need to eat, or
Like I even looked into firefighters diabetes, like when we were talking about it earlier, and apparently like it is a thing as long as you have got it under control. Like it's more of a case by case basis than like an overall. And I think the ADA also helps protect that, like on making sure people aren't excluded just because they've got an overarching medical, and love that. But absolutely, I think you're so right that it is important to show that firefighters are not always physically 100%, or even like mentally. Like some people suffer with depression, and mentally as well. We don't, like, some suffer with depression, PTSD, anxiety, ADHD, stuff like that. It's true. Even if it's not always diagnosed, like 100%. We're just here doing our best.
Right. So then we get these two idiots out in a boat deciding that they're going to go dynamite fishing because it's the better, humane way. I
was not interested in the scene until obviously the next part about what we got, and then I was like, okay, I'm hooked.
Yeah. So basically these guys like throw a piece of dynamite. They had wrapped it up in a way that it ended up in a bottle that just floated back towards them. So they end up having to jump out of the boat. The boat explodes. They get hurt or whatever. And unfortunately, when they do this and the explosion happens, it also brings a girl's body to the surface. And the 113 get there. They try to resuscitate her, and she kind of wakes up briefly, and she's like apologizing, like while she's on the way to the hospital, and like there was no water in her lungs, so they have no idea how she ended up in the river. And so that like while she's in the ambulance, she does become conscious briefly, and like starts apologizing, and they realize that she's possibly tried to commit suicide, and possibly by taking drugs. So they use Narcan on her, which like feel bad for her on that end. But we don't get a ton right away, other than just that she's not really conscious and not really responding to them, but like she's not dead, which is again weird. And I'm like, how long was she down in the water?
Yeah, I had so many
semi-alive
thoughts.
still.
My thoughts were so many things. I was just like, at first I thought her body got pushed up and she was dead, and they find a body. I thought first. Then it's like, oh no, that's not it. But like her overdosing made more sense.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. It was still like a huge mystery. You're like, okay, well, why did this happen?
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Yeah, it's definitely very interesting, and for sure was not interested in this at all until she just popped up. I was like, okay, these two idiots are going to get themselves killed. Like,
yeah, basically. Great. So when Blue had initially responded to Ryan, they had asked, like, well, do you think he would agree to a meet? So Ryan ends up going and meeting with Blue. So they meet at this restaurant, and Ryan is trying to talk some sense into Blue, but it kind of backfires. And, Blue's mad at both Dixie and Dawn for different reasons, but also for just lying to him for so long. And he tries to say that he's done being a firefighter. He thinks he's a loser, doesn't want to do it. And then it was like Ryan was obviously not having it, and they decide to order, and they have exactly the same breakfast order.
It was pretty funny.
It was kind of funny to have that. It's like all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, that's exactly my order.
I had some slight issues with. And I'd like to make it generally known. I do like Ryan generally. I don't really have an issue with his character, but I didn't love how this went down in the diner, and I don't think the general suck it up and get over it advice was the best, which is paraphrasing essentially what was happening. Right. But it was very minimizing of Blue, and it was very minimizing of what he was going through, and he just wasn't. Later on, he says something about being called out on his privilege as if it was a bad thing. I'm like, no, that's exactly what happened. He was called out on his privilege.
Right.
And unfortunately, what kind of sucked about the scene was that he sounded like so many other white, cishet, wealthy men that would probably try and talk me down for being upset if someone called me a slur.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It does make sense. And yeah, he's talking from so much privilege, and I'm like, you won't ever understand that because like Blue has every right to be mad and to like do whatever he wants in
Yeah.
this scenario. And it's like I kind of Ryan was also put in a bad spot because it's like
Oh, yeah.
he
Yeah.
was basically pushed into basically reaching out to Blue and because Don wants him to like basically fix this mess that him and Dixie made
Yeah,
and
like it's not fair to Ryan.
Mhm.
no
Not at
and
all.
it is like a tough scene and a tough moment to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, and I think an issue I have a little bit is not so much issue, but I really hate that all of what we see of like Ryan and Blue doing anything together is so facilitated by either them working together or Don kind of pushing them into stuff. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I really want them to grow as brothers, like come close. I'd love to see that, but you can't force something like that. And I'm not liking how it is being kind of forced.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like I do feel for both of them with that. Like in
Mm-hmm.
this scene, am I definitely more on Blue's side? Absolutely. But also, Ryan he was just doing what was asked of him. I just didn't like how,
Mm-hmm.
and that definitely it rubbed a little ball.
Right.
So then we're at the station, and Roxy has a nightmare about the young lady that they had rescued earlier that day, which I don't blame her for being a little shaken up by it.
Yeah.
So she ends up calling Ryan's wife to check on the lady. The girl's in a coma, and they've flushed the drugs out of her system, but no one has identified her. And unfortunately, because of the hospital being so overrun, they want to send her to a different type of care facility because they don't want to keep putting money into her and all this stuff. And it's just like Roxy suggests some sort of procedure that has had success in the past being used to wake people up from comas, but it's very expensive and the hospital won't agree to it because the girl's not awake enough to explain who she is. Roxy offers to cover the cost.
Right, because also like
Yeah.
they're not going to put money into procedure with no payment.
Right.
Yeah, and there's no insurance.
Yeah.
So
And that's an
there
extreme case. Like it's not, yeah, they're not just gonna.
and also it's not even a fully like proven because basically what the entire thing is trying to stimulate arousal in the brain, like to get it to wake up. It's literally just trying to arouse the brain by sending off signals of some kind. I don't know the full thing, but it has worked, but
Mhm.
like even
It's
it's
still
not
like
exact.
experimental in a
Yeah.
sense, even if it has worked.
Right.
Because even the doctor said that he had only seen it be done like a few
Mhm.
times and nothing. He said he like had heard about it and like watched it, but he's never seen it in person.
Right. And so she ends up going to the hospital and helping sign the papers to for the procedure. The girl ends up waking up and they find out she's muttering this weird language that they hadn't heard, and they end up doing like a Google Translate and they figure out it's Pennsylvania Dutch.
Was not expecting this turn, BT dubs. Like, okay.
Yeah. It was
It made
interesting.
sense, but like it was also like kind of it was very interesting, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, but it was just like, okay, yeah, I can
Right.
understand that.
So while she's like waking up, the girls have already been doing some research. And so Sam, I guess, had gone out to the Amish community nearby to ask if anybody of them knew the girl. And Roxy's talking to the girl and, had explained a little bit about her having a similar experience as a teenager running away from home. And she was unfortunately sexually abused while being drugged by some friends. But her parents showed up at the hospital, and Greta's worried that her family won't do that because she'd been on Rumspringa, which is the time when a young adult or teenager will go out into the real world to see if they want to stay out there or they want to come back to the community. And she had chosen to not come back. So she figured her parents would shun her and disown her if she tried to come back. And she didn't want that shame on her, I guess. Which I get, just not she's concerned. She has every right to be, and scared.
It was interesting hearing like Roxy say those things, and I'm really
Mhm.
hoping they dive into it more. Obviously, we know somewhat of the context of it, but like I'm really interested to see them dive into more of this and obviously go into like her background deeper.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. I really liked that in this episode we saw more of Roxy and Taylor because they felt very sidelined in the first,
Mhm.
even four, but especially the first three. So I am really liking seeing them in
Right.
this episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, it's like it's so hard because there are like quite a few characters, so like diving into everyone, but it seems like they're doing a pretty decent job with like diving into everyone.
yeah, I agree. I will say I had a little trouble with this scene. I grew up not necessarily around the Amish, but because my family had a farm, we sourced all of our feed and a fair amount of other stuff from the Amish community, like a county south of us. There is a decent sized Amish community in Maryland, and particularly southern Maryland. And I had a little trouble with the parents' accents in this because I won't say they were terrible. They were just off enough
Yeah.
from Amish people I have heard speak that it was throwing me off. And also, I don't know.
I think it was on par with how you usually see them like depicted on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty dear. And also like when I just looked up the actors that played her parents because I was like, yeah, there's some obvious thing about them having, I don't know, grown up around the community or whatever. But like when I saw the like particularly the father, the guy who plays him, when I saw him obviously without the kind of stereotypical Amish beard, I was
Mhm.
like, oh, it looks even more goofy. It's not even that like how actual Amish people look or dress or goofy. That's not what I'm saying. The characters did look goofy
Yeah, just a bit,
Right.
but
a little bit.
honestly, I just didn't pay much attention. I'm just
I
being
liked that
fair.
I liked that they had a good solution to it. I also
Mhm.
liked that we got into Roxy. I
Yeah.
just had a little bit of a giggle over the like
Accent.
accent. But I had a little bit of a giggle.
Right.
Right.
And it is nice that her parents did come, and the girl was really happy to see them, and they were very happy to see her. So I'm glad at least started to resolve. And we get this scene at the station. So Ryan is actually kind of upset that Dawn is more concerned about Blue than he is his career. But like, and he's expressing that if Don loses his job, it will affect the whole house. And Don tells him that he's worried more about Blue because Blue has been lost his whole life, but Ryan has kind of always had and been able to stay in control of his life, and he's had the chance to figure things out, and Blue hasn't had that. So, and I mean, obviously Blue is younger than Ryan too, by 5 to 10 years. We don't know exactly how much.
Yeah.
So
I liked this actually. This is the first time I was solidly on Don's side of anything. Because let's be clear, I still do not like Don either. But in this, I was like, actually, he needed to call Ryan out on that. Because not that Ryan was maliciously wrong, but he did need a little bit of a reality check.
Yeah.
And so I was really glad that this happened as it did because I was expecting to be frustrated over the diner scene with no resolution, but this kind of pacified me a little bit because he got called out.
Yeah.
Because it was literally, and this in the scene, he was like, "You started talking about my privilege," and I was like, "No, like actually,
You are privileged.
you are privileged."
Yeah.
And Don reminded him of that, and I liked it. I was like, "Okay,
Right.
actually acceptable."
Yeah. Everyone needs to be like, it's always good when people know their privilege, and
Yeah.
obviously it makes a big person with acknowledging that you are privileged.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comes from it. So then we see Blue going back to his old boss at the strip club to try and get his old job back.
I was like, oh no.
I'm like, oh God, where's this going? So after some back and forth, the guy agrees to let him back. but it's his last chance. Like if he walks out again, he's done. And then there's this drunk lady that's walking out and she's like grabbing her keys out of her purse. And you can see that she's like definitely stumbling and she really should not be driving, but she's going to get behind her car and drive. So Blue actually runs after her and tries to stop her, but she gets in her car and starts driving off. So he ends up following her and she's weaving in and out of cars. And he finally calls 911 and gives them kind of a details of what's going on. And she ends up passing out behind the wheel. And of course, there's a crosswalk up ahead with kids. So when he does call, he ends up getting Cammy, which is cool that he's talking to her. And there's a crosswalk of kids and she's barreling right towards him. And so, of course, he does the sacrificial thing of saying, you know, like, tell my mom I love her, and basically speeds up and gets in front of this car so the gal can hit him and not the kids, which then rolls his car. And it's, you know, of course, the 113 responds. And I didn't hear, did any of the kids get hurt or did they all get out of there?
No.
Okay.
It looked like all their attention was on Blue, and it did look from like the angles that they captured that everyone scattered. Because like I was a little worried because his car got rolled and like sent back a few feet, almost into that crosswalk.
Yeah.
Fortunately, like they got clear in time, so it looked like he was the only person
they
that
started running, and then also like he kind of none of them got hurt. Like he kind of was able to like block it in a sense,
which like damn,
yeah,
there we go.
He took like the broad of it, is I guess a better way of putting it.
Right, he did get most of that.
He got the full,
and I did see them walking the woman out away with, you know, in her hand, you know, arresting her.
She walks away without a scratch.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is. Someone will die, and then the person who killed them is drunk and walks away without a single scratch. It's love that she got stopped / caught.
Yeah. Ugh. So then at the hospital, after they rescue him out of the car, he's kind of waking up, and Dixie and Dawn, you know, apologize to him for lying. And Dixie had admitted that it was not Dawn's fault for him not being in Blue's life. It was hers, and she actually admitted.
I was like,
I was so surprised.
So was I.
And taking ownership? Wow, such a shock. Like, I was really shocked. I was surprised. Like, it's like I don't like her, and I'm gonna say this, prefacing that, but in a sense, I understand what she did for his life. Like, I understand her wanting to protect him.
Yeah.
And like that partially being a part of it, maybe at least at first. And I think even in this scene, she kind of was like talking about that she just wanted to like protect him, and she didn't want him to feel like lesser and stuff. But like, yeah, it's still shitty either way, but like at least she took ownership in this scene, which was very shocking. I was like not expecting that.
Honestly, this scene was the only kind of solid parenting I've seen from her so far. It was like her fretting over him, like trying to make sure he was warm, literally putting her own jacket over him. Like I was like, okay, where was this at some earlier point? But also, like, I think, like, as you said, Katie, prefacing, don't like her one bit.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that there is something to what she is saying about trying to protect him. I don't think it's the whole story necessarily, and I don't think it was for as selfless reasons as she kind of makes it out to be. But I don't necessarily think she's telling a lie either, because I think despite all of this, I do think that she loves her son, even though I think she is a terrible parent. So I can see how they coexist in this, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, and I think I'm warming up to her a little bit because I'm seeing glimpses of a normal person, but I'm still definitely not a huge fan of hers.
That's kind of how I'm feeling on it. Like she is like showing that she can be a good mother and be there for her child, and I'm hoping that they dive more into things. I have heard that in a later episode they are gonna sort of, not like it, I don't know if it's gonna be like kind of the Begins-esque, but I have heard that they're gonna kind of show like the start or whatever with like Blythe, Dawn, and Dixie or Dixie and Don or something like that.
Yeah, like as of right now, y'all know how I get about things. I get very set in my ways. I get very determined on like I think about things this way and this is how I think about things. So like I am kind of set in my thoughts about Dixie. I don't necessarily want to throw any complications into how I think about Dixie, but I have a feeling that they will. And I'm big enough to admit that I might have some changes in my feelings, but she's still really bottom of the totem pole in this entire show for me.
Oh, for sure is, but like
But
I am
I
liking some of the things I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I just want them to establish consistency because I feel like so
Right.
far it's all very inconsistent. Like I feel very confused about what her motivations are. I feel very clear about what
Mm-hmm.
this whole because there's like this whole big ultimate plan behind them that was kind of being like really thrown into the pilot episodes, but kind of feels like it's not really much of a thing right now, other than making sure
Mm-hmm.
he actually gets included in a will, which like but then there's the surgery, but that's not
Yeah.
really like they've not established what exactly they're trying to do for the it's like it just feels like I don't have a grip on what's actually happening. And I don't know if that's supposed to be that way,
Right.
but I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, and I think again, this is only episode 5 of a new series, so it's really difficult to fully like
True.
unwrap everybody all at once. Yeah, so I think we'll get more later on.
I think I
And
do keep forgetting that this is the first season.
yeah.
The first season is usually rough because it's so hard to like get to know everybody and they have to give like intros for everyone, be able to dedicate time to each character, and then you
Mm-hmm.
obviously have to get into the relationships. Then
Right.
obviously we have like the calls on top of it, and it's just
Yeah.
like so
Mhm.
much material. And luckily they are getting like a full season, so it's not like the previous series where it was only like 10 episodes.
Yeah.
So they
Mm.
will have plenty of time to like dive
Right.
into all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am interested. I am obviously we have more to go on this before
Right.
we get into like our final thoughts before
Yeah.
the break. So won't get into all of that, but I am interested to see what's gonna happen.
Yeah. And through this, Don Blue is apologizing, that he ruined the firefighter test. And he's lucky because Don went to bat for him again.
Mhm.
And thankfully, because of Blue's heroic act of saving all those kids, the fire chief basically said, "Oh, I thought he dropped it on the finish line," because the dummy was not across the finish line when he dropped it and the time ended. But he capped
No, he did that very deliberately.
Yeah, it was a very okay. He's a good firefighter. So, because of that, we'll get that little news. And then all of a sudden, everybody's coming in and, seeing him and visiting him, which was nice to see because it seems the vibe I'm getting is Blue's kind of been a loner most of his life. So that, and he doesn't have a lot of friends. So then to have everybody coming in and like being there for him, I think was kind of encouraging for him. That's the end of that episode. How are we feeling so far?
Honestly, it's always a challenge watching these, but and I did have fun with them. I did like enjoy them, and I feel like these episodes are better because we don't have this huge emergency surrounding it where we're
Yeah.
getting into like how normal life is like, and we're getting into like the characters and like they are, and also getting like a action part of the show around it. So
Yeah.
it is sort of an improvement.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually like, obviously, we're still in like the early days. We're still early episodes, and we still have one more to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with Katie. Like, I do like that we're not in that big emergency because like, that major disaster can be a cover for so much stuff left behind.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying seeing how they can handle an episode. Do I definitely still have my qualms? Absolutely, I
Oh,
do.
for sure.
Oh, for sure.
And
Yes,
we will get into those, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
it is kind of nice to see it outside of
Yeah.
I think
Right.
the problems I have came up in this episode, and yeah, I guess I'll get to that
Yeah.
when we actually get to the parts that I have troubles with. It's not major, but I'm also like, I don't want to see a ton of this.
Episode 6. So as 911 fashion, we have a little clip of an emergency, and then we go backwards. So the episode starts with a bunch of people enjoying themselves on this cruise ship. I'm gonna say paddle boat, but it's not a paddle boat, steamboat, water wheel. Anyways, it's going down the river, and all of a sudden the system gets hijacked, the computer system, and they don't know how, they don't know by who. And so the captain's daughter calls 911 and reports that the hijacker is propelling them towards a bridge. So immediately the police start evacuating the bridge that they're heading towards. And I even had to send a text. I'm like, by the way, I was like, heads up. So if anybody who lives in the Maryland area may be a little triggered by this because it just happened recently. So we see this little boy, his dog took off startled, and like the kid chases after him. And then before we get any like resolution, it goes back 2 days.
Which is really funny because I saw that dog and I went, don't you fucking dare. They're pretty good about not hurting the animals in the franchise.
I thought the same thing. And I was like, don't even dare.
I was like, don't even play with me on that one.
Right.
But yeah, I really did appreciate the text, EJ, because you know, the whole Key Bridge fiasco tragedy last year, I guess it was. I watched that and I was like, I still get nervous going over one particular bridge around here that has a lot of barge boats, a lot of like major boats going underneath. So
I hear you, because I just like, luckily we're not around water where I am, but like I still don't like driving over bridges. It doesn't really matter. And this one by me, they basically have been working on it for over a year to make it taller, and I'm like, oh great.
There is one. It's not even the one I'm talking about just now, but there is one down, like, to get to my sister who lives a couple hours south of me. I have to go over this bridge, and it is one lane each way, no shoulder, and goes straight up.
Oh hell no.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those.
Hate that bridge.
I actually like bridges, but I guess I grew up in an area where we were forced to cross bridges. Basically, to get to the other side of town, you had to cross a bridge, or to get out of our area, because I lived in a smaller area where we had bridges too everywhere. Either that or take a ferry. While Derek Shepard loved it, he was also a neurosurgeon and could afford it, and I could not. So ferry was not always the option. Because it's not always cheap.
Like, I like bridges. I just don't like that particular bridge, and I get nervous around this other bridge.
Yeah, there's three significant ones that I really love crossing over. It's the bridge it's crossing the Columbia River between Oregon and Washington. It's called the Astoria-Meagler Bridge, but it's like that. There's one point where you're like going up or going really steep down, and it's one of the longest bridges in the U.S. And then the Tacoma Narrows, which, if you know anything about Galloping Gertie, I mean, the original Tacoma Narrows collapsed and they had to rebuild it because nobody thought wind could affect it. And then there's in Seattle, it's I think the longest floating bridge. I've had to cross that a few times. That is sketchy. When you're driving on a bridge that the water is literally at road level, that's scary.
Yeah, that's
hell.
You guys would probably laugh at the ones that I have to drive over, and I will, like, it's only because, like, I've never really had a problem with it, but when they were working on it, they were, like, probably jackhammering on the one side, so, like, you basically can only drive one way, and it's been like that since they've been working on it. So you're driving on the wrong side of the road, and they were jackhammering, so it kind of scarred me to the point that I would have a panic attack every time I would have to drive over that bridge, because I would force myself to do it because I'm like, I'm not going to be afraid of this for the rest of my life.
Right.
And I will literally avoid it too, which is not maybe the best thing, but I'm like, once it's done, maybe I won't be as freaked out about it. But yeah, that's my little trauma.
I drive over the Bay Bridge. Anyone generally familiar with the Maryland area knows that, like, the Bay Bridge is pretty big for us because it's our connection to the Eastern Shore, without going 3 hours out of your way. So it is a pretty major bridge for us, and we have two of them. They are parallel to each other. One of them's older, one of them's newer, and occasionally everyone will be going over one bridge, or it'll be all going one way on one bridge and all going one way or another. It depends on the season. It's hell to get over on, but it's notoriously like a lot of people have anxiety about driving Bay Bridge because it is a very large bridge. It goes on for a while. Like on if you're on a GPS or something, all you can see is water for a fair amount of time.
Wow.
And yeah, a lot of people, and it's also very high. So a lot of people get very anxious. I'm generally fine driving it, but the first time I drove it in the daytime when I could actually, because I usually drive it at night. First time I drove it in the daytime when I could actually like see down and also see all the major boats going under and around, I was like, just look ahead. Also, it didn't help that one night I was really tired and kind of slightly delirious, and I was driving back from dropping my coworker off, and my like intrusive thoughts started going on about what if there were no walls to the bridge, and that was a very terrifying.
I'm like, I want like a huge wall between me and the ground.
Great.
I
Because
just
it's
started
just
pondering
like
what would happen if everyone just there was no walls and everyone just drove over. It was a very trippy time. Anyway, we'll stop talking about bridges now.
moving on.
Bridge tangent is over. Yes. So we go back 2 days earlier. We're at the Raleigh distillery, and we're seeing this group of visitors having a tour, and it's a tasting tour. So they're like taking them around to different parts of this, and they're tasting. And one of the guys is very adamant that he's going to drink it all, and it's funny because they said that he's like, well, I thought alcohol bothered your gout, and I was like, oh my god, like alcohol doesn't bother mine, but I just recently was diagnosed with that, which sucks, but it's hereditary. So I was just like, oh, okay, I've heard that. You don't hear that very often. But it looks like a couple, and then they like start drinking more as like the tour goes on.
And they're
And
drinking whiskey.
yeah, and it's whiskey. It's like a shot of whiskey.
is-
Like it's hard. Like it's hard stuff.
I cannot drink
Listen.
that. Like the only time I've ever tried it is because my brother's like, try this, and I'm like, okay, I do not like it.
There's like one or two bourbon drinks I will drink. And there is a difference between bourbon and whiskey.
Mhm.
There are a couple bourbon drinks I will drink, but that's generally like really sweeter drinks. Other than that, I
Yeah.
do not drink.
Right.
But the bartender in me was sitting here like, how did anyone think this is a good idea?
I
Well,
know.
the thing is they're only supposed to drink like a little sip, and then they're supposed to
Yeah.
dump the rest in like a bucket.
Right. That was the whole
But,
point of
like-
the taste. You get a taste and then dump the rest. But he was taking the whole
They
shit.
thought people would listen to that.
Yeah.
Like, that was just like,
At
give them
that-
like little tiny sip,
At
and
that
then
rate,
that's
they
it.
should have just gave him little tiny sips, but that's
Mhm.
besides the point.
That's what I was saying. I don't have an issue with tasting in general, but like in a tasting, you do a little bit, just a little bit. That's it, please, or else something like this happens.
Right. So then one of them stumbles and bumps into some valves on one of the drums, and unfortunately, pressure, explosion, fire happens. The 113 responds, and we also learn that it's Don's father-in-law's distillery. So
Which I knew where this was going in the scene, because obviously we know that Blythe is a Raleigh.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So now we know where the Raleigh money came from, is through the alcohol business. I'm sure there's others too, but
oh yeah, apparently they have many businesses, but I do know
Mm.
this is like one of the,
Yeah.
I guess, more lucrative ones. Like it's one of the ones that I've heard in interviews them talk about.
yeah. So while they're trying to fight the fire, unfortunately the pumps run dry, or the fire hydrants run dry. And then the trucks are running out of water, and the 110 has to respond and like pump water from the river, which is a little bit further away, but like not super far, but it takes a little bit. And unfortunately, the fire, before they can get the water, is spreading closer to the fermentation room, which according to Cammie houses 950 gallons of flammable sour mash. And even though it's the prized possession of his father-in-law, Don tells them to bust the tanks because they have to disperse it so it doesn't explode and kill everybody in there. Which, yeah, that I
Yeah, It was so many things happening this scene because the father-in-law, Edward, um, he's like on he gets to the scene like
Yeah.
very early on, they're trying to keep him back, and he is like not being the most helpful person. He's being rather difficult. And obviously, you're kind of getting the vibe, even if it's not explicitly said quite yet, that him and
Hmm.
Don do not have a good relationship. So, of course,
Yeah.
there's that, I guess, rivalry part of it
Hmm.
too.
Yeah. And at first I thought it was because he didn't want him marrying Blythe, but apparently it's not that. It's something else that happened. Um, and so, unfortunately, the sour mash is destroyed. Obviously, Edward, the Blythe's dad, is definitely mad, and he's blaming Don. He's saying that he could have waited, and there's some back and forth. And so they are not getting along. And we learn later at the station that because Ryan didn't go into the family business, into the whiskey business, that Edward has even written Ryan out of the family will, um, because he chose to be a firefighter instead of going into the family business.
I love the fact of like the family business being brought up, and Boo's like, "But you are in the family business," and Ryan's like, "Yeah, the Hart
Art family
family
business.
business, not the Raleigh family business."
Yeah. And, Don has definitely been disapproved, or has disapproved of Edward's attempt to come between him and Ryan using his money. But, luckily they do end up saving the building, and just unfortunately they don't save the mash. So that's definitely a problem.
Edward is a peach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's a piece of
Love the
work.
actor. Don't like the character right now.
I don't think I'll ever like the character. That might be strong words, but he is just, I don't like him. And even in a later scene, I don't like him even more.
I don't like any of them, and I have particular reasons. So we'll get into it later on another reason I particularly dislike him. But none of this, no.
So naturally, because of this, Dawn gets called to the chief's office again. Dawn is thinking it has to do with Edward and filing a complaint, but it's actually to inform him that there's an upcoming round of more cuts, budget cuts across the city, all city emergency services, and um, he's trying to get Dawn to make peace with Edward so they can see if Edward will pitch in financially to help save their firefighters, because he's done it in the past where he's paid money to help like rebuild the 113 and things like that. But it's definitely a challenge because Don's like, you mean like talking to him, like making it. So it definitely is not an ideal situation for them. But Don kind of agrees begrudgingly to try and figure something out.
Sometimes you just gotta suck it up.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
speaking of budget cuts, we go to the dispatch center where we learn that they've brought in I guess you could say like a fixer, or like somebody who's just going to oversee their work and like observe them and go over books and try and figure out how they can cut costs and save time and save money and all this stuff. Definitely not going well. They're yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like the gal at all.
No. I have a major I have major complaints.
Oh yeah. And even during like the interviews, they say that Cammy is being too courteous. They need to cut, like she takes too long on the calls, needs to stop saying please and things like, I'm like, seriously, like, hello, have you not met someone from the South? Like that's how they talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, that's like common courtesy.
Mm-hmm. And Cammy becomes so pissed at this way this gal is doing things. Like she's cutting into calls, and like they even have a timer set up on their desk. Like when a call is, they have to have more calls and less time on each call. So like they have a call count and a timer, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, this reminds me of like in medical shows when like the doctors must see patients in like say 5 minutes. You're only supposed to
Mm-hmm.
spend this much amount of time with people.
Yeah.
And I see that all the time in those types of shows. So the fact that they're doing this here, I am like this, like both are high stakes situations, but this seems even worse because sometimes you can't. This is okay. I was like saying this to myself when I was watching this because I'm like, okay, this isn't the McDonald's drive-through. You shouldn't be able to get through things in like this amount
Mm-hmm.
of time. Like,
Yeah.
this is a
Right.
call. You can't necessarily get through something in like 5 minutes. You might be on the phone with somebody for like 45 minutes.
Yeah. And efficiency is one thing, but if you're still in the middle of a call, your 2 minute timer or whatever it was, if it comes to the end and you're not done, like you don't just hang up. Like you're middle of emergency. It's not like they're calling to like chat for the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like any of this. Like it all was very icky. And I will also say that I will give a benefit of the like this might I'll give a slight benefit of the doubt in that it is still early in the show and this might be rectified later. But in the scene they were talking about how they'd been doged, which if you all don't know, Doge was the Department of Government Efficiency, which is run by Musk and Trump. Very controversial thing.
Mhm.
Was absolutely terrible, led to a lot of layoffs, a lot of cut down. It was overall a terrible thing that happened. But I thought it interesting. I think I had an issue with them saying something like, "Oh, we've been doged," when they have thus far made like no real other political or social statement that much as a show.
Mhm.
And in a show that's already kind of been accused of being this, I don't know how much people are thinking about this now that the show's actually aired, but like when it was being made, it was being called like the MAGA 911.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know how much people are still saying that now. I don't even know how much I
I
sort of
haven't heard that
still
thrown around
agree,
a lot. I
Yeah.
but I sort of don't.
at most I've heard people call it like Whiteville.
It is. Yeah. It is definitely that. So I
I
think it
have
was
noticed it's kind of like I find it interesting. This is just an observation. I find it interesting that some of the side characters they're bringing in are people of color.
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. And I feel like so far like I'm not really sure about any of that because yes, we've got characters of color, which we love to see. Um But I feel like both Lone Star and 911 made very clear social and political standpoints early on about like
Mhm.
embracing different minorities and things along those lines. And so far, I don't feel like we've really had that with Nashville. So I think that and then just the random throwing in of the term, I didn't love it
Yeah.
because it just felt a little random for something that's not made itself particularly clear yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that
Um.
make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I was going crazy, but like,
So one of the dispatchers who was just flat out a bitch, does end up
Yeah.
oh
getting
yeah, no, she was
fired.
terrible.
She totally
She was
deserved
terrible.
it.
Deserved.
And
Deserved.
even at one point, Cammy even threatens to quit because she keeps interfering on calls, and Cammy almost didn't save a little boy because of the gal almost like wanting her to hang up. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, we're not playing that game. And then so Blythe and Dawn and Edward try to sit down, and Blythe is trying to mediate between Dawn and Edward. It does start out okay. Dawn is trying to be the bigger person, but then Edward, being a dick, says he will go ahead and he will pay the fire department only if Dawn fires Blue. And that obviously ends the conversation. Dawn, he ends up slamming a glass down, breaking it, and Edward then starts going after him, and they end up kicking him out.
Yeah, as it should, because
Yeah,
it wasn't even like he just told him to fire Blue. He basically called him a bastard.
yeah. And he
Yeah.
was embarrassed that his daughter was involved with this and that, well, all this stuff.
And like Blythe backed her man as she should.
Yeah, which I'm glad she did.
Yeah,
Because I've
that
seen it in
She stood
shows
by.
where, yeah, I've seen it in shows where it's not the case. And the husband is usually the one that's being belittled by the daughter, the daughter
Yeah.
of the father-in-law or whatever.
Yeah, it's like so many things. I'm just like, this man, like, honestly, I was like, oh man, I wanted to like punch this dude because it's just like he was acting just like so entitled and just he was being a jerk.
Yeah, I was not pleased at all with this scene.
No, it wasn't
Fucking headache. Fucking wow. I cannot speak. Forgive me. I fucking hate Edward.
no.
Um, and like kind of knew that was gonna happen
Yep.
immediately. Like first time he rolled on scene, hated him. So that's not like, did I love Dawn smashing the glass? No,
No.
I didn't particularly like that either. But the rest of the situation, most of the rest of the situation, I was on. Well, I was definitely not on Edward's side, so I suppose I was on Dawn and Blythe's side. I just felt bad for Blythe for the most part because she was having to fit between them.
Yeah.
Also, I want to say something, and I will add a disclaimer. I'll add a disclaimer that if you and like just in general, listeners, anybody, if you and your dad have or had this relationship, that's absolutely fine. I'm not here to speak about anything specifically. I personally really hate with especially an adult daughter when they refer like the dad refers to her as little girl just casually and like daddy still is being used.
Yeah.
I'm not
It
even
gives me
trying to
the
say
ick.
it in a weird sexual way. I'm not trying to
Right.
sexualize it, but it
No,
gives
I
me
know
an
what you-
ick.
Yeah.
And it feels weird and I didn't like it. And that
Yeah.
set the scene for me on this one and I'm sticking
Yeah.
by it. It was weird.
Yeah, and I hear it a lot down there and I have friends that are from that area and they tend to use daddy and mama a lot. And I'm like,
Mama doesn't bother me, but
even
like
that bothers me.
daddy
Mama's
does.
fine. Mommy, daddy. I feel like those are very young references and
It's
also,
usually, where you find it most frequently.
yeah, and I don't know. It just gives me back. So I was here watching this like, I hate the scene in general, but I also really hate that was being.
Yeah.
God, I was so not here.
Yeah,
So,
it was.
Yeah. I mean, and there was several issues with this scene. I'm glad that Don was trying. I think he was trying to
I'll give credit where credit's
agree to disagree in some ways. Like, wasn't fully 100% saying what Edward wanted to hear, but he definitely was saying more than what he. And even Edward was like, "Okay, I'll accept that." And then it just went downhill from there.
Right. He was trying to be civil, but
Yeah.
you know, Edward just seems like the guy that is just completely unreasonable and out of touch. And I hope we don't have to see this man too much. I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna be ignorant and be like, we're never gonna see him. Obviously, I know we're gonna see him again, but
Oh, yeah.
I
Sure,
hope we
next
see this
episode.
man. Yeah, I hope we see this man as less as possible.
Yeah.
yes.
So, so a little later, we see Dawn talking to Ryan about the whole, like, what Edward had said. And, he's definitely upset about the thought of having to, like, fire Blue. Like, they just got him, and now they're, like, thinking about firing him.
And you can see, like, he knows that the better move is to fire Blue because he cannot give up, like, so much of the department just for his son. And I'm glad there's at least that realization because it's a heartbreaking realization, but it's a correct realization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then as he's talking with, Don is talking with Blue later, he hadn't told him quite yet, but then he quickly realizes why the hydrants didn't work at the distillery. And so it turns out Edward, when they did some remodeling, took some of the water from the fire hydrants to boost the production at the distillery, which is illegal.
Yes.
And
for reasons that were demonstrated.
Exactly, for that exact reason.
Yep.
And so apparently after Don sat down with Edward, he says that Edward has numerous hydrant violations across many of his buildings, and he basically uses it to kind of blackmail Edward. This guy, all he wants is an apology for his lost sour mash or whatever it is, which is something they use to distill in whiskey, and I get it.
And it was like a secret recipe, or he had like the formula down or something, thing that I really don't care to know all the details on or to get the details right on.
And he basically says, he's like, well, you were being vindictive that's why you drained it. So we still haven't 100% figured out exactly why him and Dawn don't get along, but there's definitely something up between them that's happened in the recent years.
Yeah.
So the next day we see Cammie getting a call from a woman, and at first she gets a call, and then because no one's on the line, this chick makes her hang up, and then they call again, and another dispatcher gets the same person, and then they finally realize they can hear something, and so like Cammie decides to like have her video chat with her to like give her, and it ends up being this woman's in a hotel by herself and she's choking and she's calling 911 but she can't talk. And so like Cammie uses like her experience of like she walks her through how to give herself like self Heimlich, and she ends up, the gal is able to like get it out, dislodge it, and she's breathing again. And after the call is done, this Ariel gal goes into this office that she'd been using, and she's like crying when Cammie goes and checks on her, and because Cammie's actually ready to give her letter of resignation, and Ariel's deciding to fire their boss instead of getting rid of Cammie, because the boss has been fraudulently saying he's been working an extra 20 hours of overtime every week for months or years, and it's definitely fraud after they started looking at the books. And
not to mention he's like always buying them like food.
Oh, bring
and
food.
He's like he's like overusing money that obviously they don't have.
Yeah.
And so Ariel is kind of asking Cammie, she wants to know why she became a dispatcher, and we learn that Cammie's husband actually choked to death at a restaurant. They were talking about being empty nesters, joking around, and she thought he was laughing, but he was actually choking. And she didn't know how to do the Heimlich. She didn't know how to help him. And it kind of led her to become a dispatcher because she didn't want to feel helpless again like she did at that time.
I read also, this is very interesting, that how this was inspired for the show. So basically when they were like scouting for the show, a couple of the people that work on the show, they were at a restaurant and the lights were very dim, and then all of a sudden they hear like somebody yelling. They had thought it was like drunk people, and they kept saying like raise the lights, and then this woman ended up choking to death, and her husband was like standing over her trying to get people to help. And I guess that's how they inspired this for the show, which I actually thought was pretty interesting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love when they take like real life stories and like put them in here. It's devastating to hear when it's real, but
it is devastating. Like, but as sad as that is, it's so interesting that that's where that came from.
Yeah.
And honestly, that wasn't what I was expecting, which I kind of also liked. Like, they didn't go with the typical, like, he had a heart attack, he had a stroke, you know, like those typical, like, ways to die, or like car accident, you know.
Right.
I feel like you don't ever really hear of instances about like actually choking to death out of more than like maybe children, especially because like I'm not saying everyone has had to do the Heimlich or anything like that, but like I think the fact that there was such a maneuver kind of made it so everyone is magically saved in shows like these, and I think it's interesting that they actually chose it.
Yeah. Well, at least they didn't go with she had to do a trach on her husband. Season 1 of 911.
And like I found it also interesting that she said that's what inspired her to become a dispatcher. So I'm like, interesting.
Yeah, so I'm wondering what she did before that.
Yeah, because also we're not getting like a clear timeline.
So with family money,
she was a music producer.
Oh,
they said that in the scene. So yeah,
right.
I forgot
that she was helping her with the guitar, and
I completely forgot that okay, so this is like how jumbled things are, because I feel like the retention is just not great because we're watching these all like essentially in bulk.
Also, I had issues with this. I didn't love this scene a lot, and I found it interesting that we did find out what happened to Cammie's husband. I was thinking they were going to drag it out longer, honestly. So cool, didn't have an issue with that. I just found it all boils down to I have an issue with the writing of the show. I have multiple issues with the writing of the show. And so it felt like this whole change of heart in Ariella and everything played up before then was just insincere and unbelievable, and it just brought me out of the story. I didn't love it. So I was kind of out of the scene by this point. It didn't really catch me caring all that much, sadly.
Yeah.
But I did find it like I did notice that. It was a really odd question. I didn't realize they were asking her like how she became a dispatcher. So them saying or her saying, "Oh, you were a music producer before," like caught my attention because I was like, "Well, that's fucking weird."
Right.
I mean, context-wise, it makes sense, but it
It
is kind of
absolutely does.
funny, like seeing the jump,
Yeah.
because it's not usually like a lot of people do have one career and then they go to the next, so it's not
Yeah.
uncommon, but having
Mm-hmm.
going from those two careers is a jump.
It's a big change, big jump. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it made sense in context. It did. But originally, like, it was brought up so like startlingly that I was like, "The hell do you mean she's a music producer? What does that have to do with anything?"
Right.
Right, yeah.
Let me get the shows kind of starting to wrap up with the scene. Blythe is out horse riding, and she calls Dawn to give him a warning that he definitely started a war with her dad by trying to blackmail him. And as they're talking, someone hacks all the emergency systems, locks out police, fire, 911 agents. No one can get into their computers. In their evenings, like, these hackers are sending out alerts to the public. Then the sirens near Blythe's farm starts going off, which startles her horse. So she ends up falling off the horse and getting wrapped up in a barbed wire fence and passes out. And at the firehouse,
Barbed wire fucking hurts, by the way.
yeah, it
Oh,
does.
yeah.
So, the hacking is hitting the firehouse, the hospital, Dawn's computer, call center. I mean, everyone's phones. Then they're saying, like, there's an earthquake, there's a tornado, like, all these alerts are going out. Nobody knows what's real. Then the hijackers are demanding $10 million ransom to release the system. And we go back to the events of the ship where people are getting ready to brace for the impact of hitting the bridge. And if you do remember, in season 5 of 911, this is a follow-up to the hijacking that happened in LA that they never really totally 100% wrapped up. So this is, as the show ended, we're kind of left wondering how much connected this was to what happened in 911 and where they're going from here.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading like different things after watching this, and I did find some of the things they had to say about interesting. They did clarify that basically they're not gonna have it. They're gonna mention like things from 911, but it's not like we're gonna see like the crossover.
Right. Yeah,
It.
they're not building up to a crossover.
It would have been cool if that's what they did. Even
Mm-hmm.
if it was like a small moment, like them calling somebody to get like information on when they dealt with it.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I thought was interesting is one thing that was said in an article was like they were asking about like the hack, and then they were like the origin of the hack is one of the things that I always felt was 9-1. There was a hacker attack in season 5, but we never caught the hacker. It just disappeared into the night. So it's always kind of been in a crawl for a little bit. If you do something on that scale and get away with it, you're going to do it again. And then I thought, well, now these people have fled 3 years to raise their game, and they can make a lot more money if they force the issue. And they always regretted not like bring this to Austin and Lone Star, and they ran out of episodes, so now like it's a perfect time to bring it up again, which I found very interesting. I am glad they're bringing this up. I haven't really thought about it, but I think we did. We're like talking about it recently randomly and being like, man, they really never brought that up again.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Like I am glad they are revisiting it because it always really annoyed me that they never resolved the 911. Well, like, and I think that's why even like it doesn't stick out as a major emergency in several ways. Like as you all know, we ranked our major emergencies in this earlier episode,
Right.
and like it wasn't bottom, but it was not high, and part of that I think is because they just left it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's definitely nice to be getting something. I'm just very curious how they're gonna resolve
Right.
and what it's gonna end up being.
Yeah, I'm surprised but glad that they are bringing it back in a way. Just trying. It'd be nice to just have a wrap up, at least find out who it is. I've been watching a lot of Scorpion lately, which is about a bunch of geniuses who help the government with different cases, and a lot of them can do like a lot of cyber stuff. And I'm just, yeah, I would like to know, because there is somebody behind it. We just don't know who it is yet. And I also think too, like when something major like that happens, like when ransom is demanded, it's like, well, who's going to pay it? And then so like that's above their pay grade in a way. So it's like the firefighters may never find out like what happened. They were just forced to like look around for calls, or
I know it's sometimes like they have to pay it, but then it's like sometimes like they catch them before they get to that, or like they're able to like trick them, which if they've been away this amount of time, it's gonna be pretty hard. It's funny because when 911 did their hacking, a lot of other shows were doing hacking episodes around the time. So I think like a lot of those did have like resolutions. And I think every show does some sort of hacking at least once. So
yeah.
It's not like a new thing, but it is going to be interesting to see how they close this up.
Right.
Yeah, I am actually kind of interested to see that. Like, I just
Yeah.
want to know what happened, sort of, and I also want to see because I think I heard they're gonna like maybe like to remind people of what happened, show like a few clips before the episode starts or something. I don't even know. And I know there will be like different mentions of what happened in LA, like them mentioning like the zoo animals, and I'm just interested to see what key things from the 9/1 episode they put into this.
Right.
For sure. Just glad for it to finally get ended.
So how do we feel about Nashville thus far?
Oh man, it's very complicated. Like I did enjoy these episodes more than um it was funny because when I watched the first episode, did not like it one bit, so that obviously put me off, and I know we talked about this a little bit last week. But then I liked the second and third episode, and then like these episodes I really didn't have like a lot of issues with. Obviously there's like the usual issue, but it's like kind of one of those things where I'm not really thinking like when a 9-1 or Lone Star episode would end, some episodes I would be thinking about like things about the episodes, and it would like I'd be thinking about it for days, where I'm really not thinking about these things a lot. Like I have thought about a few things that I want to see them do in Nashville, but like I'm not like thinking about like, oh my god, this happened, oh my god, that happened, that was great. Like I don't really have much thoughts after the episodes. And I'm also not like yeah, there's maybe like if I wanted clarification on something, I would rewatch something, but I'm not like, oh my god, I have to go rewatch this right now.
Right.
But like it's kind of like it's there, and I'm more so curious of what they do. So that's what's gonna keep me watching it. Obviously, we're gonna talk about it. I almost feel like when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, we're reviewing it. So it's almost like homework, where you're like, I really don't want to do this. And like I when I watch these episodes, I'm not like, oh my god, this is so boring. Like they're at least engaging us, even if it's like, oh my god, this is so this whatever they're doing, this is just like so cringy. At least that's something. I don't know.
I have very mixed feelings about the show just in general. I will say that the only two characters I like actively give a fuck about are Blue and Blythe.
Interesting, because those aren't my two. I mean, one of them is.
I don't obviously, I don't like Dawn. I don't like Dixie. I'm fine with Ryan. Like, I kind of want to see a little bit better from him, but I'm generally fine with him. I'm looking forward to more storylines, especially with like him and Sam, because we didn't get really anything with them these past 3 episodes. Taylor and Roxy, I do give a fuck about them, actually. I do give a fuck about them. I just give a little less, mostly because I just feel like I know them like a little less. But I don't know. Saying Blue and Blythe are the only ones I give a fuck about, that's not necessarily correct. They're probably just the ones I give the most fucks about. But Taylor and Roxy, I definitely want to get to know more. I definitely am really interested in their stories. Definitely what we've learned about Roxy has been very interesting, and we don't know all that much about Taylor yet, so I want to really get to know her more. And Edward can go like huddle back into the hole that he came out of. So those are my like I don't remember if I forgotten any characters, but like that's pretty much where I'm at. Is that like I feel like I go into these going, okay, so how are Blue and Blythe handling these different situations, and what are we going to learn about Taylor and Roxy, because we're still really catching up on learning something about them. That's how I feel like with these episodes. But it does keep me intrigued. I will say that I really don't like the writing, and it's because everything so many of the conversations don't feel natural. I don't know if you guys see it or agree, but it just feels like I'm listening to an audiobook where like fancy words were used instead of casual. Like, I don't know how best to describe it, but it's like the words don't fit for actual casual conversation. And I stand by what I think I said last week of it sounds like therapized talk. It just feels like it's hitting a checklist of different words to include in things, like the most optimal. It feels like someone put in ChatGPT the most optimal ways to talk about conflict resolution and came up with everything that the fucking AI said. I'm not saying, by the way, not accusing the show of doing anything with AI, but that's what it sounds like. Sometimes it just feels like I'm listening to a bot, and I don't love it.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that was very convoluted, but I didn't know how to explain how I was feeling with it. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't see all that, but that might also just be my viewpoint.
Yeah. I don't expect it to be a universal thing at all. I just feel like for me, for some reason, I noticed it early on in the show that like for me, something with the dialogue was just not hitting. And I think because I noticed it super early on, as probably just a personal preference thing, I've been noticing it ever since. So I think for me, it's really struggling in that regard. And I also feel like maybe I am wondering about the experience of the writers. Because to some degree, I'm wondering, like, do they have newer, younger writers who, like, they haven't worked on a lot of shows before and are still, like, honing their craft? That's not a bad thing at all, but I'm kind of worrying because it just doesn't have natural flow to me.
Right.
So I feel like that is a qualm of mine that I'm having with the show. And also, it just feels jumbled because I feel like I'm constantly lost to some degree on what's happening from one episode to the next. Not in the full overall continuing plot line, but just of like the nuanced details. Like if I'm not paying, it'll sound silly, but with 911 or with Lone Star, if I was doing something while I was watching the show, like if I was putting on my makeup and I had to leave the room where I could only hear like from outside the room for a moment, I could come back and I would still know what happened in the episode. Like I miss very little. I might miss one nuanced detail. And occasionally that led to funny things, I think, during the episodes when we were talking about them. Be like, wait, did that happen? But I still felt like I knew what happened. In this show, it feels like I zone out for like 2 seconds and I'm like, wait, does this just not make sense or did I miss something?
Yeah. I almost think that it doesn't even have to do with the writing, it's just the tone that they're going for the show.
Yeah.
Because from what I've heard, there's a lot of the same writers that they use on 9-1 and Lone Star. And like the 3 episodes were written by the creators.
Oh.
So I really don't think it's writing wise. I think it's like a combination of things. I think it is more the tone. I think the one thing that tripped up the first episode specifically was just like the accent, tone. They're going for like they're going for like a same vibe, but then they want the tone to be like different, and obviously like it's just a lot of things are different about it.
It's not even for me, I don't even find the accents trip me up all that much. Like occasionally I get jolted out, I'm like, what kind of
Just in
obviously
the
the
first
Pennsylvania
episode.
Dutch. Yeah, I feel like they did kind of put
And
on a
it's
little strong
also
nap.
like I've watched these actors in other shows, so I know that that's not like their typical voice they use for roles and stuff like that. So I understand that like couple of them, like that actually is like how they actually talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, the actor who plays Blue is actually born and raised in Tennessee or in
Yeah, I was just
Nashville.
about to say that. So like I've
So,
watched recently,
Oh, okay.
I've watched like a lot of like videos he does. Like I know him and his fiance like bought like 80 acres of land, so it's been interesting. Like they have a page where they post about like the different projects they're doing. And like yeah, his voice is actually like real.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like he really tries all that much. So it's interesting hearing, that he and again, like for most of them, I feel like I was jolted a little bit in the first episode, but even in the first episode, at some point I started like kind of tuning them out.
Yeah, I'm just still used to it.
It's interesting because logically, I know a lot of these actors have, like, especially the older ones, have long lists of credits to their names. You and like Katie, EJ, you guys know a lot of these actors from other stuff. I
mhm.
don't. I've not like I know of the guy who plays Don, who I cannot come up with the name off the top of my head, but I've seen him
Chris
in
O'Donnell.
NCIS.
Mhm.
I've seen him in NCIS Los Angeles. I enjoyed it. Um, but other than that, I don't know these. So, but I know they're like it's a stacked cast.
Right.
If writers from 911 and Lone Star are working on them, if the creators themselves are working on this script, logically it should be a fine script. I don't know what's not working for me about it.
Yeah.
I maintain that I think there's something off about it. I
Mhm.
just maybe that's just a me problem, but
Yeah,
I
I think it might
maintain
just
there's
be personal
something.
preference.
I
Yeah.
maintain I feel like something's wrong, but it's whatever. It's semi-personal preference, I guess. Overall, sorry, rambling a little bit. I kind of was getting into what I'm feeling because it is kind of hard to pinpoint. I think overall, I am bar was on the floor and they did surpass it. I am curious to see what happens next. I would I am wondering if it's going to continue to improve and if they wind up being renewed for a second season, if it's going to actually go on an upward trajectory. But I will a million times choose to watch the other two shows before I go and click on an episode of this.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
kind like this is like it's like I kind of don't want to watch these in bulk again, so I don't want to get too far behind
Yeah.
and stuff, but it's not like I'm like every week I have to watch an episode when it does come back.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
more
think
like
just
it's more so I'm more interested to see what they're gonna do.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I
Um,
they definitely did something with piquing the interest.
well, and like you were saying earlier, Grace, I feel like they're using certain terms and situations. Obviously, it's a firehouse, so it already brings in the fans of like first responder shows, and so they're using like all the little like lingo, and they're trying. I mean, and I know that they have like on set, experts for firefighters, and it's not like they're just guessing. Um, I don't know. I'm curious what they're gonna do, especially with the hacking and moving forward with the series. They definitely can't draw out this Blue and Dawn like just getting to know each other relationship thing much longer. I have to be careful. But I was thinking too, like you guys were talking, and I was like, I would almost enjoy wishing I could go back and watch 911 season one for the first time. Because I think some
I
of what we're
know, I
saying
think this
here,
all the time.
we would actually feel the same way about it as we do about Nashville.
Yeah, I really wish I could too, because now I like to do like live reactions to shows, and I wish I could
Mhm.
do that to 911 because honestly, I don't even remember my early thoughts on 911 since I
Yeah.
did watch it right when it came out pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really, and even Lone Star, I wish I could go back and like watch it for the first time again. I'm like, damn, somebody just give me amnesia and I'll be locked and loaded with these shows. I probably shouldn't do
Right?
that, but I'm just like, it was like there's like this. I've seen videos of it, in multiple different contexts, but it's like somebody's like they get amnesia and then they're able to read books and watch
Yeah.
series that
Mhm.
they love again for the first time, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, EJ, I wanted to say It's funny because I was thinking this kind of same thing. I was like, no, definitely Nashville deserves its pings, but if we were watching 911 for the first time and it was just airing, I feel like we'd be having a lot of the same problems or some very interesting opinions.
We'd be like, I hate Buck. I don't like this. I just leave it
Yeah, I
out.
Yes.
vaguely
And then
remember when I got one of my friends to watch
it's
911, and I got her into Lone Star, and she actually watched Lone Star before 911. I think she watched it like either the first two seasons or the first season, I can't remember. And then she watched 911, and I said, "You're really not gonna like Buck until maybe like season two. It's kind of a rough start." And she was just like, okay. I think it actually was the first two seasons because I think she watched the crossover and then she watched and I don't even remember, it doesn't even matter. But like I always preface that. I'm like, you're gonna really hate him. And even now, if I was telling somebody that's just starting a show, I'm like, you're gonna have a love-hate relationship with him for
right.
like the first, say, like 5 seasons.
Yeah,
And not
not even just Buck, but like the hen cheating storyline, the divorce
right.
storyline, the
Oh
like
yeah. I
even
shouldn't put it all on
Chim
him.
early
Mm-hmm.
on. Buck was a major amount of it because right
Uh,
off the pilot, he was an issue, and I think that set him as like the main thing about season one, but
mm-hmm.
it definitely wasn't just him. Like all of the characters kind of compared especially to where they are now,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
pretty
writing was
unlikable
kind of
actually.
Yeah.
interesting.
Right. And that's the kind of what I was getting at. I was like, man, like we would be complaining about similar things in 911 if we'd have watched it like and been doing this. So I'm trying to keep that in the back of my mind as we talk about the show because it's not like could never have been made. I mean, I have my own feelings like in ways, yeah, but but
It's
that's
like,
like putting a Lone Star aside. Like
right.
it's decent. Like it's not like if I
It's
wanted to
no
introduce
Lone
a
Star, but it's
right.
like
If I wanted to
I've seen
introduce
worse
my
shows.
friends, a new fan to the franchise, I would not invite them to watch this series. I would say either watch Lone Star or
Mm,
watch like season 2 through 5 or 2 through 8 of 911 first. Like that would be like my best advice.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I'm very much like some people were like different series. They're like, oh yeah, the first two seasons are not good, so just start with season three. And I'm like, I can't like skip parts of a show. It just feels wrong. Like I'm very much like I want to start in episode one. I want to go through all through it. Even if it's a really shitty season, I want to watch that. And I almost feel like every show, or not every show, because there's a lot of shows that have really good starts, like season starts. But I almost feel like a lot of shows do have kind of a rough season one. And then it's like, okay, they get renewed and hopefully things get better in the next season.
yeah. Yeah, it's hard because season one of 911 as well, even as as it is actually really important because it sets the foundation for where everyone goes from that point. Because I feel like, yeah, you could start season two and continue in, but you miss the nuance between behind Eva showing back up, or
Mm-hmm.
everything that happens with Michael later on, or
Bobby's
even the
story.
nuances.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bobby's story, Bobby and Athena getting together, the
I
nuances
think
behind
Bobby's story is the
theirs.
one thing that I would actually watch season one for.
Right.
Yes, especially now. And yes, Miss Bobby. And also, it's like it's hard to understand where Chim really is coming from until you what, because like there's so much about his insecurities and also like his trauma that happens in season one.
Right.
And it's like there's so much important shit that happens in season one. It's just kind of difficult to watch.
Right. Definitely got way off track with Nashville, so I'll go back to that.
Yes.
Um,
Oh my gosh.
but um, yeah, see, and again, we're comparing, which has is pros and cons to it. I I'm not. There are definitely characters I could care less about. Most of them. There are some that are growing on me. I won't say like redeeming themselves, but I definitely feel like I think I said earlier, like Dixie actually admitting that she was the reason why Dawn wasn't in his life was a big start to...
I'll give credit where credit's due.
Yeah. Blythe, I'm liking her more than I thought I was going to. I kind of like Ryan, Blue. What are the girls' names?
Taylor and Oxy.
Taylor and Oxy.
Yeah.
More characters. I don't... Yeah.
See, it's funny,
again, shows how much we see them.
Too much of a TV nerd that I just like know all their names. I could tell you different things. I'm just like, that's how I am.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give it the season to see how it goes. I mean, I'll still watch it for the podcast, and I think that's, you know, but I definitely am not invested in it like I am with 911 and Lone Star. Like, if we got Lone Star news that they're bringing it back in a year, I would be like all over it, like need to know every little detail, like give me everything.
Yes.
But
please, manifesting.
You know, if Nashville ended, I would be like, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll see one of the characters will move to LA or whatever, you know, like I don't care.
I also think this is totally random, but also it's on topic. I think it's interesting. This is the first in the franchise where there's not any of the leads aren't like a cop.
Oh,
that's a good point, actually.
That's
I didn't even think about that. We don't even have a significant side character that's a cop.
No,
that's true.
Like, they have police respond calls, but they're like background. Which I don't mind. Really, like, I don't think it's necessary to have one. I think
it's an interesting angle that I'm kind of glad we're exploring. Yeah, that's a good point. That's such a good point. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, it didn't even click. But that's a good point, for sure. I'm wondering if they're going to bring somebody in later on.
I highly doubt it. It doesn't seem like they're going to. I think if they wanted to have somebody like that in the show, they would have already brought it up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like, along with that, like, even though I'm the one that asked it, on the other hand, I'm thinking also that when you have a cast of, like, characters, their significant others, possibly children, and you start adding those up and you have 10 to 15, like, active cast members, even if they're, like, not full-time cast, it's hard to keep up with everybody. Some characters are not going to get the screen time that some fans are going to want, and maybe it's a good thing that they're keeping this a little less, or maybe that they're not doing a cop storyline because they're having more Blythe involved than even Karen is involved for Hen. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because the dynamics are all very different.
Yeah, they are different. Like, I still feel like that family aspect is there. It's just different in a sense. I don't know. Each show, it felt like previously had their own feel with their family. Like both 911 Lone Star were found family, but I felt like 911 kind of claimed that a little bit more. But also Lone Star also had that. I'm not saying they didn't, but I don't even know.
Right.
So yeah, we have very nuanced feelings on
and it is to be expected. We have a lot of hurts from previous seasons of 911 and Lone Star. We have desires and wants that we want that, you know, we won't maybe get. No, a lot of us were pretty raw when we found out that we were getting Nashville and not getting Lone Star back. So we'll see how it goes. So you guys know, we're going to wrap this up, but we just also wanted to kind of say happy holidays to all of you. We are going to take a break for a few weeks for the holiday season and come back when 911 and 911 Nashville are back on the air in January. So we'll be off for a few weeks. So
yeah, I think we're all looking forward to having a break for the holidays, getting to just some time for ourselves and our families and friends. But we're all definitely looking forward to coming back in January.
Agreed.
I
know.
Yeah, it is exciting because it's like then it will be like a fresh year to do a lot of things and stuff. Talk about new things. I know from today when we're recording this, it's like a month until they come back, which is crazy. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. It'll be a good time.
Yes.
And yet another year of us doing it together. We'll be in the process of year 6.
Yeah,
that's so crazy.
That's true. I love it.
It's amazing.
And I'm also glad that like we started on 2020, so we have like a 0, so it's like easy to like, oh yeah, it's the 6th year we're going in.
I know, that is true.
Well, thank you so much for joining and listening. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and check us out on YouTube. For more, visit 911lsroundup.com. And follow us on our socials at 911 LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. And also, you can come join our Discord. The link's below and on the website.
You guys can follow me, Katie, at For the Love of Tarlos on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at Run and Rafa 911 on Instagram and Threads.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Threads. Talk to you next year. Bye.
Bye.